On this episode of the Bronze Metalist podcast, we talk about Cairn by Mizmor.
That's right, baby.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Bronze Metalist podcast. I'm Cairn.
I'm OJ.
We're two professional broadcasters, theoretically, and we
get paid to do it. So.
We like metal, and we like to talk about it. And today, we're talking about an album that I've come across fairly recently that I really dug. Mm-hmm. It's Cairn by Mizmor, which is a project, a solo project that's sort of blurs the lines between black metal and doom metal, and I think it's really neat. We'll talk more about it.
There's like some funeral death in here a little bit.
Yeah, or funeral doom, you mean?
Funeral doom.
Funeral death. That's probably someone qualifies as that.
I want to hear funeral grind.
Funeral grind. I think those are two kind of diametrically opposed musical attributes. I think it would be hard to pull off.
Hear somebody make that happen.
It's something that just goes between someone's probably done it. But yeah, we'll talk more about Mizmor in a bit. First, how are you this fine evening?
I'm very well. Yeah, doing very well. It's been a great week. I don't know what it did last weekend. Oh, I went to the pool.
You went to the pool, but you didn't get, horribly...
I did not, because it's one of those things where we have two water slides here. They're great water slides. I love the replacement slides they put in.
But they're also not 150 feet tall.
Right. I mean, they're taller than the old one was.
Yeah.
But and also there's two of them, and so I went down both of them like, I'm done. I'm going to spend the rest of the time just waiting in the pool.
Yeah, just chilling out and in the... simulated low gravity of being in water.
Yes, and have I had to teach my 10-year-old how to do the fist squirt guns. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Those are fun.
Squirty fists.
Yeah.
Just teaching my kid how to do squirty fists.
His mom eventually got tired and fell asleep.
Why?
Sorry.
Why though? I had a big weekend. I went to Fargo.
All right.
And played some D&D with my buddies again. As a full day one shot sort of deal, and that was a lot of fun.
Nice.
For most of it, I missed out on a number of opportunities to be more effective as a member of the team.
Yeah.
Because of random bullshit that happened.
Of course.
So I was playing a Hexblade Warlock, which is you're a warlock, but your thing is your patron gave you a magic sword.
Sure.
And so you're like a paladin with less health, but also more spell options and other cool shit that you get to do.
I like that everything's a trade, it seems.
Yeah. Well, that's how you make a balanced game.
Right.
If something is objectively better, then people are always going to choose that thing. Well, not always, but a lot of people are going to choose that thing if something's like a lot of people didn't play Ranger when 5e came out because it was objectively worse than everything else.
Sure.
They've done a lot to try and fix it. And there's a lot of cool subclasses that are out now. But as it was back in 2014, 5th edition Ranger was awful. But
they've fixed that.
Yeah, they've worked on that, and there's a lot of cool subclasses and optional rules and whatnot that you can use. But anyway, so I was playing that, and the big thing with Hexblade Warlocks is like doing a fairly high amount of damage consistently.
Sure.
But the thing is, so like one of the first big fights that we got into was we were tracking down these lizard folk who were dragging people into the swamp, and with them was this big dinosaur. It was a Spinosaurus that was with them.
Sure.
And so I'm like, okay, I'm going to get up in that thing's face. I'm going to fuck its day up. We also had a wild magic sorcerer. And the thing is the DM was not using the default rules for wild magic sorcerers, which I feel like every single time I've been at a table with a wild magic sorcerer, everyone always decides to use some really extreme extra bullshit on top of what is already some extreme extra bullshit. So instead of a D100 table with like 40 options on it, I think it 40 or maybe it's 50 options on it, like in the player's handbook, it was a D1000. D10,000. Sorry. Table.
What does that dice look like?
You just have a bunch of D10s and read them in order from left to right. So what happened when the wild magic sorcerer tried to cast polymorph on the Spinosaurus is, first of all, the polymorph failed, but then his wild magic feature kicked in, which it should not have, because they decided that they were going to leave it up to the hands of the DM when their wild magic thing got triggered. Normally, from what I can remember, it's like in the player's handbook, you roll a spell attack and that hits or it doesn't, and then you roll an additional D20. And if you get a 1 on that D20, you have a wild magic surge.
Right.
This was just like almost every single spell, there was a wild magic effect. This time, unbeknownst to me, because I had no way, he did not announce what happened to it. The Spinosaurus's bones instantly froze solid, which killed it instantly. But it stood there frozen in place, not visibly frozen, because it was just its bones that were frozen.
Right.
So it stood there locked in place as if it had been paralyzed. So I had no reason to believe that it was dead and spent 4 turns attacking a fucking dinosaur that was already dead. I got like 2 nat 20s on it.
And they let you keep going?
Yeah, because the DM is an asshole. I could have been going around killing other things, doing something useful, zipping around because I have like 5 teleport options.
Sure.
Because I'm a fucking warlock. But no, I spent my entire time attacking a dinosaur that was already dead.
And there was other stuff you could have been attacking.
There was other stuff that I could have been doing. The fight turned out fine, but I wasted like 4 turns. Because since it was just its bones that were frozen solid, whenever I attacked it, like its flesh would split open and it would bleed because its blood was all still liquid and it, wasn't like it had lost all its blood. So I hit it and blood would come out from the wound. I had no way of, it was like 2 turns and I was like, this thing is fucking dead, isn't it? And Travis was like, I don't know. I was like, can I roll to see if it's dead? You don't know. Fuck you. So I kept attacking it. But there was just shit like that. And then we fought a dragon at the end, but we were in its lair and it was a black dragon, so it was bullshit.
Is that an acid dragon or no?
Yeah, they breathe acid, and that wasn't the big thing. The big thing was that it summoned magical darkness covering the entirety of its lair, so none of us could fucking see anything.
Right.
And like I got up in its face to try and attack, and nobody else did. So I soaked every single one of the attacks, and I was just like, why am I the only one getting fucking bullied? And eventually we left out the back of its lair because the way we'd come in was cut off.
Sure.
So I had a sword that let me breathe underwater. So I dived into the water at the back of its lair. And I also had like a 60-foot swim speed. Ooh, wow. So I could swim extremely fast because that was what the sword gave me.
Oh, okay.
The sword gave me a bunch of fucking water powers. Because it was a randomly rolled like loot sword because we were level 8, and it was like, you would have some cool shit. Here you go. Like there was cool stuff that happened, but the things that stick in my mind is the bullshit.
Yeah, that really is sort of you crystallizing life right there. That's
some cool stuff happened, but I really remember the bullshit. But so I swam. I was also the only one that could swim out of the tunnel. And the dragon didn't chase after me. The dragon chased after the sorcerer who dimension doored out of the lair to the dragon's hoard, which was in a different room, and stole a whole bunch of gold. The dragon figured it out and then left through the open tunnel because it couldn't fit through the other one.
Sure.
And so I got out of the tunnel before it did. I hid. Then it flew over to where the sorcerer was, and I booked it that direction. But by the time in between me booking it there and the dragon arriving, the barbarian climbed up on its back, and then the dragon just flew straight up for 5 rounds, and they fought midair. The barbarian killed it midair, but then started plummeting back to Earth, landed on top of the artificer. The barbarian was knocked out instantly. And the artificer was brought down to like 7 HP, and then a black dragon landed on top.
God damn it!
Neither of them were killed instantly because they were in a the like hut they were in was the entrance to the dragon's cave.
Sure.
And so they were down in the hatch in the trap door that led down to the lair, and so the dragon didn't land exactly on top of them.
Sure. But
they took a shitload of damage, and the barbarian almost died before we got up there and healed them. But it was just like I got there like in round 2 of the barbarian fighting it in the sky, and it was just like, it's out of range. Can't Eldritch Blast it, so I guess we just sit here and watch and hope he wins. And I didn't do any, like, I think I hit the dragon 1 time, and it used legendary actions to hit me like 7 times. Like I got brought down to like 7 HP before I thunder stepped into the water. But it was just like, I was just getting my shit pushed in so hard all the time because I felt like everyone else was playing like morons. But they were probably
frustrating.
They were probably doing fine.
Right.
But it was just like, it was also, you know, a group of people that play together like twice a year.
Sure.
And we're playing level 8 characters that have not a ton of options, but a fair amount of options that people aren't necessarily familiar with. And I had spent a lot of time like researching what I wanted my invocations to be, because it was like, oh, I'm level 8. I have a lot of options, because that's warlocks are basically, yeah, you only have 2 spell slots, but here's a whole list of shit you get to do for free as a trade-off.
Is there a max level up in 5th edition?
20.
Oh, it is 20, yeah. So it's still 20.
Yep.
It's always been 20.
It's still 20.
And you sort of become a demigod at that point or whatever.
Basically, not codified, but you basically are equivalent in power. Like I think 3rd edition basically said like the most powerful the average person could ever become is like 10th level.
Sure.
Anything beyond that, you are sort of in like superhuman territory. Like anything past level 10, you are in Usain Bolt territory.
Sure.
Where you are on some level a freak of nature whose biology is perfectly suited to doing this one thing. Like Usain Bolt is perfectly built to be a runner,
right? Just
genetically. The same way that Michael Phelps has like the perfect body type to be a swimmer.
Right.
So it's like anything past level 10, you're in that territory where like there is something about you specifically that makes you extremely good at what you're doing, whether you are a barbarian or a wizard or what have you. Past level 10, you are special. There are very few people in the world like you. But 20 is also the maximum attribute score that you can have unless you are a barbarian, when your level 20 feature is, I believe, your strength and constitution both go up to 24. So you have a plus 7 in those stats. But that's their thing.
Sure.
Also, I guess if you're a legendary monster, a bunch of them have stats above 20. The Tarask, I think, has like 30s in strength, constitution, and whatnot, but that's because
charisma.
I think it gets like a plus 10 to its saving throws, but its attribute is pretty awful. But it gets a pretty extreme bonus to its saving throws, and or it's just immune to. That's the biggest problem with fighting a Tarask is not necessarily like dodging its attacks or taking damage. It's just hurting it in the first place. Right. Is the difficult part. But anyway, D&D. I'm fully vaccinated now.
You are. Congratulations.
Yeah, that was 2 hours ago. So
now you can go around kissing random strangers.
Yeah, like because I totally do that
That's
normally.
your thing, yeah.
Yeah, before the pandemic, I went around and did that all the time.
Yeah. Yes, Kale has 15 pending court cases.
Yeah, sexual assault / harassment cases. Everybody knows me as that one creep.
The reason you steer clear of Cash-Wise.
Why do they still let him in? I don't know why they still let him in.
You'd think they'd have his picture on the door or something.
But no, I'm waiting to see whether or not I'm going to be completely miserable tomorrow morning or if I'll be fine. I don't know.
Why would you be miserable tomorrow?
Because some people have a really negative reaction to the second shot.
Oh, right. Yeah, my wife had that issue. I mean, she had, it was one of those things where she wasn't really bad. It was like a very, very mild case of the flu or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
And so she's like, I if we have to go do stuff, I can.
Yeah.
But I don't want to.
Yeah.
Like, just lay down. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, so if I'm feeling really terrible, I'll call in sick tomorrow. But
right.
I don't know. Some people are
fine.
Yeah, some people are completely fine. I was fine after the first. I mean, the problem usually isn't the first one though. I had a sore arm for a couple of days, but
right. You see, I had a sore arm for the first one, and the second one,
nothing happened to you. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
You had the Pfizer?
Yeah. No, Moderna. Moderna. Yeah.
I had the Modelo shot.
The Modelo. You had the Modelo shot.
Yeah.
Speaking of beers that have an unnecessary amount of shit before you get to the fucking bottle cap,
I brought Stella Artois, the kind of the dark Stella.
It's good beer, but like it has a wrapping around the bottle cap, which I hate.
It's got that Lowenbrow / Modelo.
It's not the foil. Modelo the foil on Modelo's bother me because that gets messy.
Well, yeah.
Because it never comes off clean.
And what sucks, it doesn't come off clean. Then somehow you end up chewing on a little bit of it.
Always. How did that end up in my mouth? That's what she said. I hope not. You should know. But
she's never going to that Cash-Wise again.
Oh, Jesus Christ. But yeah, no, you should. I don't think there should be more than one step to opening a bottle of alcohol. One step is enough. But anywho, shall we talk about Cairn by Mizmor?
Let's do. I listened to.
See, you're struggling with it. You're trying to open up this bottle and you can't get the fucking wrapping off.
Actually, if I just use that right there,
if you just go at it with the bottle opener, it comes off with it.
Right. There we go.
Which maybe is the prescribed way to do it, but does not seem like it because there's like a demarc. There seems like there's supposed to be a rip line there.
Perhaps, yeah, perforation.
But there isn't.
No.
But so Mizmor is a band. Well, it's a project that was started in 2012, I believe.
It's mostly one dude. Though, right?
One dude who just goes by his initials, ALN. And it was basically started just as a personal project that he wasn't planning on putting out into the world. I don't know.
Well, it doesn't say.
I'm not sure where. I'm sure that information's available. I didn't find that information specifically. But the name comes from, I believe, the Hebrew word for psalm.
Oh, really?
Which he basically started the project as a meditation. He was essentially a Christian who was on the verge of, a devout Christian on the verge of losing their faith, and basically started the project as a way to explore the feelings he was experiencing, and sort of, it was a very personal project that he wasn't planning on doing anything with. But then people he showed it to were like, "This is really good. You should, put this out there for other people to listen to." And he did. And eventually he decided to leave Christianity behind and kept on doing the project as ways to explore his ideas and his relationship with faith and philosophy and that sort of thing. And so this album in particular is based around a concept that was explored in I'm trying to remember the name of the book that he name dropped. It was something to do with Sisyphus. But basically, exploring a corner of nihilism that has to deal with the idea of if you accept that life has no meaning, you have like 3 choices. If you accept that we are like living in a world with no deeper meaning to any of it, one choice is you can ignore that and embrace faith and ignore the rationality of it and just fully embrace faith and forget about that stuff. One of the other options is you decide not to live in a world where there is no meaning and you kill yourself. And then the third option is to acknowledge that being a human is absurd because we're creatures that live in a world that doesn't have intrinsic meaning. And yet we are constantly throughout our entire lives searching for meaning.
What was it? Camus. That's Albert Camus.
Not familiar. That might have been the writer of the book. I believe it was French. About book. I looked up book about Sisyphus. The myth of Sisyphus. Yeah, Albert Camus. Yeah. You're exactly correct.
Yep.
It's basically about that philosophy. And so this album is sort of leaning in that direction of in fact, the whole absurdity. He was basically doing a lot of research about absurdism. And the first song on the album leans on, it's called Desert of Absurdity.
Right. That's the short intro song.
Yes. Well, the short intro song at what, 9? So, that's over the sound system there. Not on my phone, but it's a short 10 minutes long, a short 9 minutes, 59 seconds. But and then exploring the second song is Cairn to God. Then there's Cairn to Suicide, and then there's The Narrowing Way. And the idea of the cairns was essentially like cairns are usually used for a number of things. If you don't know what a cairn is, it is a roughly vertical pile of stones.
Right. It's often used for a grave.
Yeah. Sometimes used for a grave, sometimes just used as a memorial marker with no body inside.
Sometimes just getting the rocks out of the field.
Or sometimes, oftentimes marking a path, a pathway or a mountaintop or, some sort of path, generally speaking. It's a marker signifying something. And so that's the basic idea of the cairns, is basically guiding him through this philosophy he's exploring, ultimately coming to the conclusion that human life is absurd, but what else are you supposed to do?
Right.
But I thought this was I was reading an interview talking about the way that he writes, which I think is really interesting because I'm not sure a lot of other like metal bands I'm aware of do songwriting the way he does, which is he writes everything on acoustic guitar.
Sure. Which he plays masterfully.
Yeah, he plays very well. He started, his first instrument is drums, which he also plays extremely well.
Yes.
But he writes, he does all of his songwriting on acoustic guitar. And I think he kind of was alluding to the fact that he doesn't consider himself to be a particularly good guitarist, but he writes and then practices the shit out of what he's written.
Right.
So he knows how to play it. But, maybe is not necessarily, he's not a virtuosic guitar player.
Right.
It's a songwriting tool for him.
Yeah, he makes really good music. I mean,
yes.
The songs he plays are really good. I mean, you're right. Maybe he's not like all the acoustic pieces in here or the acoustic portions in here. It's usually just solo acoustic guitar.
Yep.
And it's very melodic. It's very
well done. There's a lot of melody, just in and that's sort of why he likes writing on acoustic guitars, because when you're playing acoustic guitar, playing stuff that is like abrasive and not very melodic doesn't sound right on acoustic guitar. It doesn't sound right without distortion.
Yeah, if you have an acoustic guitar with HM2 pedal,
sure,
that sounds fine.
But yeah, like writing it sort of forces you to inject a little bit of melody and a little bit of dynamics and that sort of thing, which I think when you then transpose that to heavy metal instruments, with all the trappings associated with that, I think you end up with a really interesting sound.
And you end up playing it differently than you would have, but like initially.
Yeah, if you just
found that
wrote it on electric guitar from the start.
Right.
I think that's real neat. I think that's an interesting way of going about things. I came across this because I think I mentioned this last week. I was listening to the song Emptiness by Grave Creeper a lot. Gate Creeper.
No, not Grave Creeper.
Grave Creeper. That probably also is a band,
yeah,
at some point. But Gate Creeper, I was listening to that a lot. And I was just looking for something else that roughly fit the vibe. And I hit the song radio for Emptiness. And this was like, I think The Narrowing Way was like one of the first songs that popped up. And I was like, oh yeah, Mizmor is a thing. Because I listened to the album preceding this one, which is called Yod. I listened to that one a bit. I didn't get like super into it, but I was like, oh, this is good, but I'm not really, feeling this right now. On the recommendation of the guys from Bell Witch, because they were doing a sit down video where they were visiting a merch store that sells a lot of vinyl and whatnot, and sells like their merch and whatnot. And they went into like their vinyl store and picked out a whole bunch of records. And one of them was Yod by Mizmor. And I was like, oh, that, and they played a little snippet of it and they were talking about it. I was like, oh, that sounds really neat. I'll have to check that out. And then I listened to a bit of it and I was like, maybe some other time. And then stuff from this album popped up and I was like, oh shit. Oh, this is the sound.
Yeah. This is the sound. These crazy cats have got it.
Well, I was trying to think of what's the quote from Back to the Future. What's that sound you've been looking for? You mentioned you were looking for that new sound. Hey Chuck, listen to this, or however the quote goes. Right. I don't remember. But yeah, it was like that. I was like, oh, this is what I was looking for. This is my type of abrasive but also depressing shit. And so I went for it. This is ultimately not as depressing as it could be.
Right. There's a lot of stuff in here where you listen to it and it's very kind of, it has the black metal feel to it.
Yes.
And then it's in like a major key,
and that is exactly my shit. Yeah. I mean, that's why I love, I like Def Heaven, like Black Gaze, for example. That's the whole genre. That a whole genre is built off of that idea of what if we play black metal riffs, but like in a major key. That's basically that whole subgenre right there. That's part of why I love Numenorian so much is it's very much leans in that direction. This is a lot, more on the doom side most of the time, but occasionally it ends up in that like, oh, this is black metal, but in a major key. Because it sort of alternates between, faster paced black metal riffs and occasionally extremely slow, like Bell Witch style doom metal, right? Which I appreciated the hell of. And speaking of Bell Witch, I mean, I already mentioned that like the guys from Bell Witch like this project. The album art was beautiful. Also done by Mariusz Lewandowski, the same guy who did the album art for Mirror Reaper. Right. So I was like, I knew there was a reason I liked this album art. It's by the same fucking guy.
Very reminiscent. It's the head hanging down. There's
that vibe. Yeah. Well, because it all goes back to, I can never remember the guy's name or how to pronounce it, but there was a different Polish surrealist painter who painted very in the exact same style, to the point where Lewandowski has basically said like, yeah, I'm painting in his style essentially. But I really dig, like, that's one of the things that can immediately sell me on an album.
Is good art.
Is having kick-ass album art. Not even like, not kick-ass album art, but album art I look at and go like, oh, what is that?
Sure.
What could this be about? Like, that's how I got into Swallow the Sun, is I was just browsing Facebook and I saw Dylan from the record store just flipping through new albums that they had gotten in. And they flipped over to When a Shadow is Brought into Light by Swallow the Sun. And I saw that album art and I was like, what the fuck is that? I have to have that. That is beautiful. This beautiful album art.
That reminds me, I might wear my hoodie tomorrow.
Your budget music and video hoodie?
Yes, the one that I haven't washed yet.
Because it smells like the record store.
Right.
Which smells like you are a person who maybe is really into herbs.
Yeah. Well, it's very incense.
Yeah. It's soaked in incense.
It's insensitive.
Basically.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
So, and like we were talking about yesterday, anyone who recognizes budget music and video and then smells that goes like, yeah, that's what that should smell like. Yeah. I've been in there. So absolutely. I got a new sweatshirt.
Wonder Year shirt.
Yeah.
Where'd you get that?
I got it. I got it a couple weeks ago. I've been trying to break it in before I like really wear it out a whole lot. But yeah, I was just looking for a new hoodie just because there's one too many comments about how my Silent Planet hoodie is falling apart. I just love that fucking hoodie so much. That hoodie is like the exact right size. It's really warm. It's always been extremely comfortable. It's only gotten more comfortable because that's
you've broken it in.
That's because that's how clothes work.
Right.
So I love that hoodie, and it makes me sad that the sleeves are falling apart. I kind of want to put like big like professor patches, like you would have the elbow patches on like a professor's blazer or whatever. I want to find those and put those on there and see how that goes. But
wow, I want to see if they maybe manufacture a tweed Silent Planet jacket.
That would be I'd wear that. Sure, I'd wear the shit out of that.
Sure,
yeah, I have to find that. They put out a new single. I haven't listened to it. I'm not entirely sure if I really dig the direction they seem to be going in, which is leaning a lot more into like electronic elements.
Oh, really?
That's not quite my bag. I don't know if I really dig that direction they're heading in, but I love their first 3 full length three. I love their first 3 albums. Anywho, what's your does this slap?
Sometimes.
Most of the time, in fact.
Yeah.
If you judge it by beat rather than runtime, most of the beats are fast.
True.
But most of the time, there's a lot. I don't know if it's an even split. I guess runtime wise, it's about an even split between black metal and doom metal, but the doom metal is designed to run slowly. So that's it's about, I think it comes out to about 50-50, which I think is great. It's peanut butter. It's chocolate and peanut butter.
Two great tastes.
Chocolate and peanut butter.
Tastes great together. I still want to hear some funeral grind music.
Funeral grind.
Somebody needs to make that.
I think there was one of the first viral Jared Dines videos from like 2013 was him mashing together metal styles, and one of them was doom metal and grindcore, and he called it Turbo Snail. And like the little snippet that he wrote for that mashup was really awesome. I haven't watched any of his stuff in years.
So was this pre-breakdown Jared Dines?
That doesn't even begin to narrow it down. I feel
suppose
like
it doesn't. Yeah,
the guy's had so many video, like not apology videos, but like of those same style of like viral YouTubers where they sit in front of the camera and the first thing, okay guys, so
here's what happened.
Like not to put anybody down for having troubles, but it's like that's like a whole like script basically for how to make a YouTube video when you, about how you're not feeling it, or oh, you did a shitty thing. Here's how to make here's a format for an apology video.
Here's a
fill format. In your name and appropriate, adjectives and verbs.
Right. It's an apology video for a thing nobody knows happened.
Yeah.
That's usually what it is. I can't believe I did this. Well, why are you telling us? Tell us about it. It's really not our business.
Yeah, I don't know. It's like that whole era of like kind of unhealthy audience relationship sort of thing, kind of I think slowly maybe going. I honestly, it's probably getting worse. But like Twitch, the kind of created the whole
and TikTok,
Twitch and TikTok with the parasocial relationships. Essentially, if you don't know what that is, it's basically you feel like you are friends with a person you have never met or directly interacted with. That's a parasocial relationship.
I often have to remind myself, hey, we've been buddies for 13 years now. No, you haven't.
No.
He has no idea you're alive.
You don't exist to him.
So stop pretending you do.
Yeah. And so I try to avoid that as much as possible if I can. But I think I've certainly been guilty of it with certain things that I listen to and watch. So. But it's an unhealthy thing mentally. One should try to avoid it. Have real friends that you can talk to and see on a daily basis.
Living human beings.
Living human beings.
With all their servos and circuits. And
real human brains. Be friends with Neil Breen.
Yeah, sure. Maybe he'll put you in some sort of bad special effect.
I wonder how many like close friends Neil Breen has. I hope Neil Breen has like close personal relationships.
I feel like in order to be Neil Breen, you have to have too many close personal friends.
It's possible.
I think it's one of those things where you have such a wall of people going, yeah, that's cool, that you're able to continue to make the shittiest movies on the planet. Yeah,
the people that give you the confidence, to continue with your vision, and honestly, I'm here for it. I think Neil Breen is a very special person,
and he's making more movies.
I hope he keeps making movies forever, as long as he's not like a complete scumbag.
Yeah,
I hope he keeps making movies forever. He seems to have some pretty wild ideas about things. But so far, they've been in a novel kind of way. Mildly concerning, but mostly novel.
Right.
So I'll be on board with it for now until I get more information. But I didn't look up a score so much for this one. But as far as I know, this has been a pretty well-received album. And I see no reason for it not to be well-received. I love this. I think this is fantastic. I did not hear anything personally in it, or and I cannot pick out things that I think other people would dislike.
Right.
Like generally speaking, this is very solid all the way around.
Right.
In so many different ways. I can't think of like nothing popped into my head going like, oh yeah, I can see somebody not liking that. If you like black metal and you like doom metal, you will probably like this. If you don't like either of those two genres, then yeah, I guess it's probably not your thing, but you know, the same would go for Bell Witch, and Mirror Reaper was, you know, one of the best albums the year it came out.
Sure.
So if you just dislike a whole genre on principle, then I guess it's not for you.
Yeah, I really hate pizza. I wish I didn't have to eat pizza all the time. You don't.
You do not have to eat pizza all the time. But what's your favorite song on this here album?
I think it is the opening song. I think
Desert of Absurdity.
Desert of Absurdity, right.
I really like it. I love the acoustic guitar open. I think it's beautiful.
It is beautiful. It lasts for a whole minute. It's like a minute and 1 second, and then suddenly it's over. And then yeah.
Not quite. It wasn't. That's not the beat, but
right, and also not the sound it makes.
Scrup.
Skip it.
Yeah, Scatman John comes in. Ski with his fedora and mustache. But yeah, I really like that one. I wrote down my favorite as Cairn to Suicide.
Okay, the third song.
Which is, oddly enough, throughout most of its runtime, a much more positive song than Cairn to God. I don't know what that says about the songwriters, ideas about things. But like, it generally is a more upbeat song than Cairn to God. But I really love the last few minutes of Cairn to Suicide. I think there's a lot of really beautiful sort of like semi-melodic stuff going on. It's not like pure, there's no, sweeping guitars, epic guitar solos or anything, but there's a really great building riff that I think is really beautiful to listen to in its own way.
And the guitar sound here is very different from a lot of things that I've heard.
It's like it's so perfectly balanced between dirty and like well recorded. Like it's a dirty, really distorted, really gnarly guitar tone recorded impeccably.
Right.
and that is my shit.
Yeah, a very well controlled wire fire. I really enjoy that. Yeah.
Because like that's part of traditional second wave Norwegian black metal.
Sure.
Is not only is it a really gross gnarly guitar tone, but also the recording quality is awful. I love I like the guitar tone, but I just wish the recording was better. And this has the best of both worlds,
right? Where
you have a really gnarly, and that's why I like a lot of doom metal so much, is because it is that same idea of like, okay, we have a really gnarly guitar tone and we're going to, record it on these extremely expensive microphones and coming through this, vintage amplifier.
Right.
And that only 10 of these exist in the world anymore. And we've rented it out for 2 days. That sort of shit.
It comes with its own bodyguard.
The shit that Sleep blew all of their recording budget on when they were writing Dope Smoker.
Right. They spent more on these amps than weed.
Yeah. It's like we spent all of our money. The record company gave us all this money. We spent all it on vintage amps and also just paying off, credit card debt and shit. Like the joke is that they spent it all on weed, but really it was mostly it was a lot on vintage amps and gear and just paying off their own stuff. And then when they sat down to record, they're like, oh shit, we're out of money. But I really like the combination of qualities. This was all recorded by ALN, which he said was a very kind of painstaking process. The recording took 3 months, but he was doing everything himself, all the instruments, all the vocals, everything. And he's not a professional engineer, but he was able to get an amazing.
We don't know anything else about him.
I don't. Somebody else probably does. I think he's a pretty private person.
Sure.
So I don't know what else he does. I know they do tour. I know Mizmor does play live, and there are pictures of ALN, but he's kept his full name private. But they do play. Mizmor does play live shows.
His full name is ALAN.
His name is just Alan.
Yeah.
But I think he's a fairly private individual.
Sure.
But he recorded everything himself over 3 months and then sent it to Sonny DePerry did the. I think I wrote that down correct. But another guy did the mixing. Did a fantastic job there. And then it was mastered by Adam Gonsalves, who it sounds very familiar, but I can't remember from where. Maybe some other band that he's worked with. He maybe worked with Bellwitch. I don't know. But I feel like I've come across that name before. But all the production elements came together really well. This is a fantastic sounding album.
It is.
It's just really great all the way around. Which brings us to what metal are you bestowing upon this? Like Maz Kanata to Chewbacca at the end of the 2019 film The Rise of Skywalker, directed
the best Star Wars film.
Yeah, directed by the greatest director of all times, Vijay Abrams.
Yes. I love the recording. I love the sound. I loved it all. It just, I have to go listen to it again. I give it a Lone Ranger.
Okay.
A Hi-Ho Silver.
A Hi-Ho Silver. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a gold. Just because I've already listened to it a bunch of times.
I only listened to it once today, so.
And this is making me want more from this band. I want there to be another album sometime.
That's why it has a goal for you.
This is this is my exact kind of shit. It's, it's weird. It's scary. Like the vocals at times, he does this like inhale scream that is uncanny sounding. Like a lot of times throughout like my, time listening to metal, when I've heard and identified inhale screams, I don't like them. There's just something about them doesn't sit right with me. Yeah, like something about them just doesn't sit right with me. But the way he does it just fits the music so well and is like haunting and freaky. And I really like it. And it's not always inhale screams. Like there's like deathcore bands where they will do like everything is an inhale scream because you can do some like weird noises with it easier than exhaling. It's also extremely bad for your vocal cords.
Oh, of course.
Far more so than normal screams and death growls. It's really, really bad for your vocal cords unless you know like exactly what you're doing. Like that's how some people do like pig calls and shit.
Sure.
Everybody's seen that viral pig calling contest video. The lady the guy who won with the sunglasses in that video, that's what he was doing. He was doing an inhale pig squeal worthy of a deathcore band. But something tells me he wasn't really into that.
Right.
But in any case, that's, I guess, it for our discussion.
I will give this another listen. I'm definitely going to give it another listen.
Do it.
I will.
Do it.
I enjoyed it enough.
Boy. You must listen to the album again, boy.
Well, which direction is it in?
In the direction of doom metal, boy. Take us in the direction of metal, boy.
So speaking of in the direction of metal, what's next plan for next week?
Well, a total departure for next week.
Okay.
It's an album.
Next week is September, isn't it?
September. Will it be September?
Yeah, it'll be September 1st next week.
Oh, shit.
That might change your plans.
That might change my plans.
You could bring a metal album if you so desired, but since we're uploading these, day of record,
right,
might be what we want to do. I don't know. It's up to you.
It's just something not metal. Let me ruminate on that.
Okay, like a bovid.
Yeah,
some kind,
some sort of bovine,
a ruminant animal.
Yes, some sort of ungulate.
One of your many stomachs.
Exactly.
Okay, well, go ahead and ruminate on that.
All right.
Until whatever pops up for our first episode in a no metal month, a non-metal September, we will adjourn. I was going to say something else there, and it was you can follow our pages on Facebook and on Twitter. We post episode links there. If nothing else, it's a good way to find out when we upload episodes. Otherwise, it's just Wednesday nights from now on. That's what I'm going for. Wednesday nights. And follow us on your Apple Podcast app or on the podcast source from Libsyn. You can find it in the Google Play Store and download that if you're like me and do not have an Apple phone. So till next time, thank you very much for listening to another episode of the Bronze Medalist Podcast. I'm Cale.
I'm OJ. Congratulations.